last we left the saga of ousted New York Times editor Jill Abramson, the court of public opinion was squarely in her corner. Since then, though, the narrative has shifted thanks in part to pushback from the Times publisher and its media critic. Still, the issue remains divisive and breaks down largely along gender lines. Emily Rooney has our story.
The unceremonious firing of New York Times executive editor Jill Abramson last week sent shockwaves through the newsroom.
Were you surprised by this news?
Absolutely. I was stunned, and so were members of the newsroom at the New York Times.
And when reports surfaced that Abramson may have been ousted for complaining about pay equity, that got everyone in a lather. So much so that publisher Arthur Sulzberger Jr. released a statement over the weekend saying the unequal treatment storyline was shallow and incorrect, and that Abramson had lost the confidence of her masthead colleagues.
Have there been other editors of the New York Times who were difficult to work with and hotheads? I mean,
I don't have to answer that.
Monday, New York Times media critic David Carr dismissed the notion that complaints about pay equity had anything to do with the firing and confirmed that Abramson had alienated her masthead colleagues. It was the same day Abramson delivered a classy graduation speech at Wake Forest.
Sure, losing a job you love hurts, but the work I revere, journalism that holds powerful institutions and people accountable, is what makes our democracy so resilient.
While the diminutive Abramson, who speaks in an odd nasal drawl, has been characterized as difficult, brusque, and pushy, a front-page obituary this week about former Times editor Arthur Gelb pointedly describes some of those same qualities as assets. Mr. Gelb, a gangly 6'2", was relentless, fidgety, and in your face, whether in passionate response to a potential scoop or in fevered reaction to the whim of a fellow boss. As I wrote in a WGBH News post this week, what happened to Abramson is a matter of perception, and the truth does not change a thing.
So about that pushback that came from Arthur Sulzberger and David Carr, I had the impression, reading David Carr's piece, that he was sort of taking the company line. I thought
Sort
really,
of?
Trying to be measured here. Yeah, thank you for the nudge, the editorial nudge. I thought he was totally taking the company line, and I thought he dismissed in way too glib a way the idea that her push for equal compensation, Jill Abramson's push for compensation equal to her predecessor, Bill Keller, might have been responsible. So I was not convinced by that, and I thought the Arthur Sulzberger interview with Vanity Fair made him look bad, not Abramson. What about you three?
Hello, the gray lady doth protest too much. This is about David Carr's salary continuation plan. I get it, David. You got to write something. It's a both-and situation. She was a difficult manager. She probably did this thing with Baquet that she shouldn't have. Trying to hire a co-manager editor without telling anybody and making that clear. Bad move. Nobody's going to, say that was a good management move. But hello, there were some discrepancies with her pay. Both and. I believe the New York Times has done several stories about both and situations. That's exactly what it was. So don't even come to me with this whatever story he's had
You're talking to David Carr.
David Carr he had to write. I get it. I really do get it. But please, no. It's not a perception, and he didn't tell me the truth. That's my feeling.
Well, I'm going to be a little gentler on David Carr. I thought it wasn't that he was trying to achieve balance, I don't think, but I think he did say some pretty tough things about the paper, and then threw in a couple of paragraphs about he is asked around, and he did find, in his view, that she had lost the support of the masthead colleagues, or some of the masthead colleagues. But I think if you read that column carefully, that he really did present the issue in a way that had some criticism in it of Sulzberger and the organization there. So I wouldn't be that tough on him.
Was it the first letter of every sentence? And if you read down
looking for that code.
I'll go back and read it.
Well, I've read a lot of this stuff, and it's still a little bit hard to know what was going on. But I think that what comes through a lot of this is that Arthur Sulzberger probably should have picked Dean Baquet in the first place. However, since he didn't, he still has not adequately explained why he did what he did to Jill Abramson. The paper was doing fine, journalistically, even financially. And the fact that she was extremely difficult, or maybe even worse than difficult at times, has certainly not been a disqualification in the past with any of the men who preceded